So maybe you're like me and maybe you feel like you explored every option for your own mental health journey and you somehow found your way to ayahuasca. An important thing that I realized was that ayahuasca was not the end, it was the beginning, right? And that sounds super cliche, but I actually believed that I would go away to this beautiful retreat that actually offered me so much support and kindness. It was absolutely fantastic. And yes, I learned a great deal during the course of that week, but I wasn't ready for the bombshell of coming home and the whole world being exactly the same, but now my nervous system being slightly altered and my awareness being really, really sensitive. So it was like being newborn in this incredibly loud and overstimulating world, something that I definitely was not ready for. And that's something that I hope that I can help somebody else's transition from ceremony into their everyday life. I can help ease that transition and prepare yourself a little bit better. I was blessed in that I have a clinical background in the sense that I would help people build behavior support plans. We would identify areas of their weaknesses. We would identify behavior patterns that we want to change. We would try to identify ways to motivate that person so they could stick to that plan. So what I did was I came back with that knowledge and understanding, with the knowledge and understanding of the neurosciences that I had been studying, understanding my own default brain, would try to go back to its old habits because that's what we humans are built for. We like things to be the same. Predictability equals safety equals survival. So for someone like myself with ADHD, high anxiety, complex developmental trauma, it was super hard for me to break patterns. I had all this deep logical understanding here from my clinical work, and I would be able to explain to people why things like breathing practices work on a neurological, nervous system level, talking to people about the importance of meditation, of present moment awareness, of going to a therapist, of talking these things out. Then I would try these practices myself, and I believed fundamentally in the science of them, but for some reason the shit just would not take in my own brain. And it was so frustrating, and I just felt like there was absolutely no hope for me. You know this stuff. Why can't it work for you? You understand why this works. There was just no getting into, now I understand it's a completely different place, and the scientist in me wouldn't really understand this, but thank goodness more of my brain has expanded. So I've gone from understanding stuff here to understanding it here in my heart center, my intuition, my all-knowing self. And it just is a very different understanding. And that's kind of what ayahuasca helped me do. So it took all this clinical knowledge that I had, this masculine way of thinking and of controlling and structuring my world, and it sunk it in nice and deep so that I really know these truths now. But it wasn't an instantaneous thing. It was coming back to everyday life. And I'll admit it, going back to your everyday job work was so difficult. I just felt no meaning in the work that I was doing, even though it was important work. There's nothing that could make me do it because all I wanted to do was focus on myself and my own development. I felt really drawn to the idea that I had just spent all this time, all this money and this effort and this new understanding and this knowing. And then what? I'm just going to come back and plop myself back into the life that was creating so much misery and havoc for me. So what I wanted to do is pull myself away from all of that. So I started to build and develop my own thing. How could I break away from this job of mine? Not the job being the problem, but it was just focusing on the wrong thing for myself. And I really just felt like I somehow needed to teach other people what I now understood about our place in the world and about how really self-mastery and self-love is the answer to our mental health illnesses. And it sounds crazy, but there's a way, each person in their unique complexity, if we bring it down, we whittle it down to the nitty-gritty of what we each need to achieve, and it is self-mastery, it's sovereignty, and to self-mastery is to love thyself, it's to know thyself, right? Again, clinician in me wouldn't have understood these things, but now on such a deep level I do. And self-love didn't just come because I sat with a mother, when I drank the medicine and suddenly I love myself. No, I actually became aware that self-love was a real thing in that moment, but I really pondered how it was possible for me to achieve that. It just, again, trying to use my logical brain to try to understand it. And it just wasn't hitting. It didn't work. So what I had to do was come back implement a bunch of stuff, understand the science. Okay, so from what I've read, what I understand is that I have this default brain, these rituals, these habits that I've used my entire life. It's my subconscious, unconscious mind going throughout my life, helping me survive, but also creating misery in my world. What I know is that when I drink ayahuasca, it somehow softens that part of my brain and it makes it more plastic, more malleable, so that maybe now if I take all these practices, these things that I've known, that I've been teaching to other people for the last, at the time, 15 years of my life, a little bit longer, maybe now I will practice these things and they'll start to take a hold. So that's what I did, painstakingly. Holy crap, at first, some of the hardest things I've ever done. So for some reason I could do breath work no problem on the retreat. I'm surrounded by people, I'm in the right space, the right environment. I have ayahuasca running through my veins and I could rest. My nervous system could relax. It could get deep into breath work. So I thought, well, I'm going to buy the app of the amazing breathwork coach that I had while I was there. He's fantastic. I would highly recommend him to anyone. Get his app. I'm going to start practicing it at home. It was easy breezy peasy. I'll ease my way into it. Absolutely not. When I laid down at home to try my first breathwork, even though I understood logically why it was important for myself, I had done it before, so I know I had practiced this. Everything in my physical being completely rejected that experience. It was the old me still in there, the ADHD, unable to settle, can't be still, must be doing something. If you're not producing, if you're not being productive, you're not worthy. So absolutely no possibility. And so I fought it. My mind was racing a mile a minute and I'm trying to listen to this beautiful coach direct me on this breathwork app because I understand the importance of sitting with yourself, getting quiet with yourself during this whole process of self-love, self-mastery, and sovereignty that I now understood. But the most painful 20 minutes of my existence. And that went on for, the first month. But I didn't give up. I just struggled less. I mean, yeah, there were gaps. There were days where I didn't do it. But I was always writing it down that it was my expectation that I try to do this breath work. But again, my old patterns, my subconscious mind, it just was rejecting it. It was, no, we don't sit still. And I'm not lying. My feet were twitching. And I wanted to get out of my body. I was just screaming to burst out of my body. It was a horrible experience. But again, I powered through it because I had experienced it before. I knew what the outcome was supposed to look like. So yeah, through time and just pushing and pushing and pushing myself, I was finally able to get to a place now where breath work is something that I absolutely enjoy, and I can still my body and I can still my mind and I can become present with that. But that's just one example of one behavior change that I added to my life, and every single one was just as painful. It was that wrangling of the monkey mind, the mind that had been conditioned to do things in a certain way. It just keeps trying to fight back, and it still does to this day. I mean, it's 3 years later. I have a way better structure of a life for myself, much healthier, never been happier. But every once in a while, those old patterns creep, and you notice it and you take over and you push back. But these things take time. You think about it. I went to the experience, my late 30s, and I had all that time of building up years and years and years of survival behaviors, of dealing with depression, anxiety, ADHD, the world around me, and flailing hand talker here. But all of that time just trying to deal with that, it's going to take some time to undo those things or to learn new patterns, to plant new trees inside this brain of mine. And that's the beautiful thing about our beautiful brains and neuroplasticity, is that it is plastic. Our brain is malleable. We can change it, but it does take time and effort. And my biggest fear is that somebody would experience something as beautiful as an ayahuasca ceremony. Maybe the ceremony itself wasn't perfection, but when you get home, just know that your brain is in this beautiful, delicious place where it's ready to be malleable and to try to implement these changes. So the best place to start is to build a support plan for yourself. So a little bit of structure that covers the basics. As you start to act these things out and practice these things painstakingly over time, you are literally showing yourself self-love and self-worth. You're caring for yourself the same way that you would expect somebody to care for a child that they loved. And that's exactly what we're missing. We're supposed to be nurturing ourselves just as we would a child. That's the piece that's missing from all of us. That's one of the steps to self-love, self-mastery, is to nurture yourself and care for yourself, just as the way that you would expect a child that you love. Just as I've said 400 times, I'm going to repeat it. This is what happens with ADHD. Anyways, so long ramble longer. I hope that something that you take away from this is that if you go back to your old habits, that's okay. You can bounce back. That's expected. It's expected to go back to your old habits. It's expected that it's going to be uber painful to break those habits of being yourself. But know that your brain is in a beautiful place after meeting with the mother. And that's the right time to start doing that work. So I hope that you will, and I hope that you don't give up on yourself. At the end of the day, the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. If you don't love yourself, how on earth could you love the world around you? And it really is a beautiful place. All right, that's enough from me today. Take good care of yourself. You know, for someone like me who have what was that? None of that made any sense. Like, nobody knows what you're talking about. The last 10 minutes, like, not a person. Everybody's like, what?